Hello, it's good to see you. Today we are going to talk about something that several people have asked me to do, and that is saving money and dealing with debt. And there are tons of articles and things online that you can find to help you with interesting and helpful tips for saving money, living on a budget, setting up a budget, paying off your debt, things like that. And these are things that, and I have a lot. Like I just kept thinking of new ideas, and I kept making cards for my ideas, just kind of throughout the day. When I would think of something, I would just take a little square and I would just type it in there. So I have a lot of stuff here, way more than I meant to end up with. I thought I might have like 12 or 14 things. I have a lot more than that. Um, so we're going to go through these. I will say that I mentioned recently that as of May 21st, I am, except for my house, completely debt free. And that's the first time in my adult life that I've ever been able to say that. And I'm really excited. It's liberating. But it came with a lot of sacrifice, a lot of work. You just work at it one day at a time. You just keep working at it. Everybody in the house has to be committed to it. They have to understand the importance of it. And that's certainly been the case. So we haven't gone without. I mean, we have everything we need, but we don't have everything we want, and that's okay. That's part of it, and we'll talk about that too. I will say that for me, I have two advantages that I never really thought of as advantages until I became an adult. I grew up relatively poor. We didn't really have much money. My dad ran his own business for years and didn't do too great at it. And my mom didn't work. She stayed at home until I started first grade. So for quite a while, it was just what my dad made. And then when she went to work, she wasn't making a lot either. So, we never went without. We were never hungry or anything. We grew a lot of what we ate. My mom made a lot of our clothes. We certainly didn't have a nice house. We didn't have nice cars. We didn't have really expensive stuff. We had the basics, really. But living that way, I grew up knowing that if you want something nice, you're going to have to work hard to get it. And that, I think that really shaped the way I look at money and things now. I appreciate things a lot more because I grew up without fancy anything, really. My parents were hard workers and good. They're good people, but we weren't wealthy by any means. So that has been, I think that's worked to my advantage as an adult. I don't expect to have expensive things all the time. I don't expect to take fancy vacations or drive fancy cars. I don't expect those things, and I don't feel that those are necessities in my life. They're nice things. They would be nice things to have, but they are certainly not necessities. And the other thing I think that is an advantage for me is that my parents taught me from the time I was little about money management, saving your money. Don't blow it on impulse purchases. If there's something you want, you're going to have to save up your money to get it. I had to buy my own car. I had to pay for a lot of my own clothes. I had with money that I would earn around the house. And then when I was 16, I went to work. I went and applied for a job right before my 16th birthday and started within a day or two of my birthday. And I've basically been working ever since, except my freshman year of college. So I know what it's like to work and save up your money and pay bills, take care of your obligations first. That's one tip I'll go ahead and tell you. Take care of your obligations first before you go out and spend money on stuff. That's one thing that my parents taught me. Always make sure that you take care of your bills and making sure you have enough money for food and the essentials before you think about taking your paycheck and blowing it on something. And that was something I had to do whenever I got paid. I worked in a grocery store when I was in high school. And when I got paid, my mom had to buy my car because I didn't have enough cash for it. I had to save up $500. And then she bought it. I gave her the $500, and then I had to make a $100 a month payment to her the first of the month, every month. And if I didn't make the payment, I didn't get to drive the car. And if she had to drive me around, I had to pay her like a taxi. And it was just to teach me responsibility. If you take your paycheck and you blow it on something and you can't make your car payment, you're not going to drive. I also had to keep my grades up. That was part of the agreement that we had. And my kids are going to do the same thing. I will expect the same thing of them. I had to pay for gas, maintenance. My mom paid for my insurance, but everything else was up to me to pay for. So those things really worked to my advantage. My parents worked very hard to teach my brother and me about managing your money wisely, and it has served me well. And that's one of the tips in here I will mention. If you have children, I think it is very important to teach them that young. Don't give them everything they want. Make them work for it. Make them work and earn the money. Make them see how hard it is to pay for things. You know, the money doesn't just fall out of the sky. You know, somebody has to work to earn the money to pay for that. And I think if they learn that young, it's a lot easier than trying to learn it as an adult. And I've known adults that never learned how to manage their money, and their life is just in financial ruin because they have no idea how to manage their money. And it's sad, and I think it's a lot harder to learn when you're an adult than when you're a child. So I was very lucky to have parents that tried to teach me that, and they did a great job, and I have thanked both of them for it. Okay, I'm going to get into some of these things now. This, I think, is one of the most important things, and I don't know if I made a separate card for this, but this is one thing. Review your budget once a month. You should have a budget. I think probably one of the first things you could do is to make a budget, and there are plenty of examples online of different types of budgets. You can get an idea of what you would put in there, and basically your budget is just I do just my monthly expenses, you know, power, cell phone, mortgage, gas bill, groceries. You know, you have to allot certain amounts of money for different things. I would say actually number one would be make a budget. If you don't have one, you need one. Everyone needs a budget, because I think if you've never had a budget, I think you would be shocked how much money you fritter away every month that you could be saving and using for something more productive. One thing you can do, if you're just starting out, a good thing to do would be to take a certain span of time. I would say 30 days. For 30 days, write down every penny you spend. I don't care if it's just a pack of gum. Write it down. Write down what you're spending your money on. Save your receipts if that helps. You know, at the grocery store, I spent this. I put gas in my car and it cost this. I bought a sweater and I paid this. And everything you spend your money on, write it down. And at the end of that 30-day period, you know, I paid a power bill. I paid my rent or my mortgage or whatever. Car repair. Anything you have to spend money on, write it down. And at the end of the month, go back and add it up. You can even put it into categories like entertainments, dining. Like if you go out to eat a lot, you could lump that into a category. Emergency, you know, like one-off things, like you had a flat tire or something like that. You know, whatever you spend money on, gas money, child care, just put it all in there. And then at the end of the month, sit down and really look at it. And what you have to do is figure out, if you're trying to pay off debt, and you have to put that in there too. If you're making credit card payments every month, that needs to go in there as well. Anything you have to pay every month should go in your little list. And you really start looking at it, and I think you would be surprised how many things could be reduced or eliminated completely if you try. And it will take a little time to get used to it. You may feel a bit deprived, but trust me, you will get used to it, and you won't feel quite like Oliver Twist after a few months. You'll be surprised how quickly you get used to it. Sorry, that was my phone. I thought I'd turn my notifications off. I apologize. Let me do that really quick. Sorry. your phone sounds like that, that wasn't your phone, that was mine. um, I've been through some really lean times in my life. Most of my life has been that way. Like I've said before, I worked my way through college and I paid my way. I had student debt that I paid off myself. I've always bought my own cars. I pay my own way. I've been on my own since I was 17 and I don't expect anyone to pay for me. It makes me uncomfortable actually if people offer to pay for things for me. I don't like it because my first thought is, I don't want to owe you. Thanks, but no thanks. I don't want to owe you anything. I'd rather do it myself. So I've been through very, very lean times. I think some of the worst times financially were when my children were very small. When my younger son was born, he was 2 years old before I finished paying off the hospital bills from having him. And I have insurance that I pay for. I pay for their insurance. I pay for everything, basically. I don't get much in child support. Not going to go into details, but I cover pretty much everything. And that's okay. That's okay. But I know what it's like to have to really, really tighten your belt and keep it that way for a long time. But you can do it. You can do it. You can get through it. Look forward to a future when it won't be quite so tight because things always change. You know, my kids were in daycare and that's really expensive because I don't have any family around here to watch my kids. My parents don't live close to me at all. I don't have anybody around here that could keep my kids for me. I always had to pay to take them to daycare. That's just life for me. That's life for a lot of people. I know I'm not special in that regard. A lot of people have to do that. But things always change. Things are not always going to be the way they are right now. You can probably look, after you write everything down, you could look through and say, okay, yes, I do have this expense now, but I'm not always going to have this expense. One day that expense will go down or go away completely. So I do have that to look forward to. Try to stay positive. And I know it's hard sometimes. It's hard to stay positive because I've been there. I would look at my budget and I would just cry. I would literally just cry. I mean, it would just seem so hopeless. It's like this is never going to get better, but it does. Things do change. So once you write everything down for a month, take a good hard look at it. And you have to learn, and this is another card. I may be eliminating these before I get to them. You have to learn to tell the difference between a need and a want. Whether it's something you just want or if it's something you literally need. And that is one good question to ask yourself before you buy something, whether it's online or in a store. Do I really need that? Really? Am I going to die if I don't have that? A lot of times the answer is no. And I still have to do that. I do that myself before I make a purchase, whether it's big or small. Do I really need this? I know it's on sale, but that's beside the point. Do I really need it? It's just something to think about. So yeah, once you have your budget set up, I think most of us have a general idea every month, or you will after you track your spending for a little while. You'll have a general idea of what you spend your money on, where your money goes every month. I review my budget at least once a month. I have it saved. It's a very simple little budget. I have it saved in a Word document. There's nothing fancy about it. I didn't buy any fancy software. It's literally just a Word document. And I have a little chart, mortgage, utility bill, gas bill, power bill, water bill. It's nothing fancy at all. And I just review it once a month to see if I need to add anything, take anything out, if anything has changed. I go in and make changes if I need to, and then I'll look over the whole thing just to see how I'm doing. And I've been doing that once a month or so for, my goodness, 20 years probably. Just, you need to keep in mind where you are financially and what. Maybe if you need to make some changes, maybe there's some things you could eliminate. If you have cable, I don't really know that I would call that a need. If you have, you might look at seeing if you can get a less expensive cell phone plan. And I know that's hard for a lot of people. There are so many ways we can justify the money that we spend. But I need cable. I need to watch whatever show, or the kids like it. I need this expensive cell phone plan because I never know when I might need to watch a 30-minute video sitting in my car. I mean, there are plenty of ways you can justify the money that you spend. But I guess ultimately you have to decide what's more important. Is having that fancy cell phone plan more important than paying off your credit card? If it is, then you're probably not going to change anything. But if paying off your credit card is a big priority, you may have to look at things a little more critically in your budget and see what you can reduce or eliminate. Now, here's something that I do, and I've been doing this for years too. I try to do this. Plan your meals in advance and buy only what is on your grocery list. Now, the grocery list thing is a big one for me. This is definitely me 90% of the time. I do plan meals in advance, and I shop. I will put stuff on the grocery list that I need for the meals that I plan to make that week. And if it's not on my list, my kids know my rule is if it's not on the list, it's not going in the cart. When they go shopping with me, they learn from the time they were very, very small. If it's not on mom's list, she's not going to get it. So they learn very young, don't ask for anything. All you're going to do is make mom mad if you keep asking for stuff. So yeah, if it's not on the list, I don't get it. And you'd be surprised how much money you can save just with that one little change right there. If your kids go shopping with you, and they know that you're a pushover, and that if they beg for another box of cereal or this fancy doodad or this toy, that they can wear you down and you'll get it for them, they will keep doing that. And I have never given in to my children when they do that. And if they throw a fit, they both tried that. My older son tried it once. My younger son tried it twice. If they try to throw a fit in the store, I did the same thing every time. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I left my cart where it was. I removed my child from the cart. I took the child out to the car. I strapped him in their car seat. And I got in the driver's seat. And I said, okay, when you're done having your fit, we'll go back in and finish shopping. And they'd cry and cry and cry. I didn't hit them. I didn't yell at them. I didn't make a scene. And I waited until they were done and had calmed down. And I would ask them, are you calmed down? Can we go back in now? Okay. We go back in and shop. But I didn't give in. And you have to let them know that you mean it. You can't waver back and forth because kids are smart. They're going to figure out, hey, sometimes if I just keep pestering this mom of mine or this dad of mine, dads are bad about it too sometimes. If I just keep it up, I might get it anyway. I might not, but it's worth trying. My kids, no, I don't play that game. That can save you a lot of money too. You'd be surprised how much money you can blow on just impulse purchases in the store, whether it was their idea or yours. Kids can drain your wallet if you're not careful. This one is also related to food. I do this some. I don't do it as much as I should. I used to do it more. Save money and time by doubling the recipe, especially if the key ingredients are on sale. You just make twice as much, and then you can freeze half of it for later, or whatever you want to do. You can save it for later. That way, it's already prepared, and you don't have to do anything. It's a very easy meal the next time you have it. And this, I think today, these days especially, just, I go down Wendover Avenue in Greensboro, and there are restaurants everywhere. I could go down there right now. It is 9:30 on a Tuesday night. I could go down Wendover Avenue right now, and the parking lot of probably every restaurant would be packed with cars. And it's that way every night of the week. And around brunch, around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning on weekends, it's like that too. So, for most people, I think this would save a lot of money right here. Commit to eating out one less time per month and save the money. Just one less time a month. If you go out to eat, say you go out to eat twice a week. I mean, I don't know. I know people who go out to eat more than that. Just one less time a month. Take the money that you would have spent on that meal and save it. Put it in a jar, put it in something, put it in a container that everybody can see and that everybody in the house can see, and you can watch it grow over time. And you would be surprised how quickly that money adds up. And one of my cards, I don't think I've gotten to it yet. Everybody needs an emergency fund. I would say at least $500. And I know there have been times in my life when I would have scoffed at that because saving $500 would have been impossible. When I was paying more for daycare than I was my mortgage. Yeah. I can't say I've always had an emergency fund. I haven't. I do now, but no, I haven't always had one. But by making little changes like just little stuff like this, and you're not even going to really feel this, eat at home one night a month that you would have gone out to eat and take that money and put it in the jar, I think you would be shocked how quickly that $500 would add up. And then when you have car trouble and you need some extra cash that you didn't expect, you'll have money to help pay for that emergency expense. Now here's another one for grocery shopping, and this is something that a lot of people don't do or they don't think about. Shop by unit price. Now most grocery stores, and Walmart does it too, and I think I've shown you this in a couple of videos if you watch my store walkthroughs. They will have the price of the item there, and just below that on the price sticker on the shelf will be you'll see a number, usually in orange or red or something. That will be the unit price. That is how much it costs per ounce or whatever. There are different units of measuring that unit price. Look at the unit price, because I know we automatically assume that buying the biggest container of something is cheaper. It's not always the case. Sometimes the smaller one per ounce or per gram or whatever is cheaper than the big one. I have found that to be the case quite a few times. So always go by the unit price, not necessarily by how big the thing is. And if you watch me a lot, you know I'm going to recommend this. Check out Aldi or Lidl if they're in your area. If you've never been to Aldi, give it a shot. Don't turn your nose up at it before you try it. I know there are grocery store snobs out there because I know some personally. I know some grocery store snobs who I would never go in an Aldi. Ew. Don't knock it till you try it. I'm telling you. Now, we don't have a Lidl around here. I think there's one in Winston-Salem, but we don't have one here. I want to try it, but I have not been to one yet. But try it out. Go in there. Look around. Even if you just look at the prices, even if you don't buy anything, look at the prices and compare it to what you pay for those items in your snooty little specialty store that you shop in with your little reusable tote bag feeling all smug and stuff. Just compare. Just think about it. I think you'd be surprised at how much money you could save every week just by getting the basic essentials in a place like Aldi, if that's an option for you. Even just basic stuff like milk, eggs, bread, whatever. And try some of their other items and see if you like them. They have a double money back guarantee. If you don't like it, you can take it back and they will give you your money back and replace it. So you've got nothing to lose. Just give it a shot. And this is about gift giving. Plan gift giving in advance for expensive items. Like if you have kids or there's something really expensive you want to get your spouse for an anniversary or Christmas or whatever. Start planning in advance. Like if you know it's going to cost a lot, but you really want to get it for them, you could start saving money ahead of time. Like if you go out for a coffee every morning on your way to work, make coffee at home and take the money you would have spent on the coffee going out and stick it in a jar, hide it away somewhere. Don't blow it on something else. And again, I say this so many times, you would be surprised at how quickly that money adds up if you don't touch it. You have to leave it in there. You can't take it out. Just be conscientious about it. Put that money in there every day that you would have spent. Take that money, put it in that jar, and you will be shocked at how much money you will have in a short period of time. Speaking of gifts, this is something my family did. Set a family spending limit on gifts. I know for my mom and my brother and I, we all have limits. Nothing over $20 total. You can't spend more than $20 on everything. It's that's the total amount you're allowed to spend. So nobody's going to go crazy. You're not going to, and you don't end up with people feeling bad. Like, well, I gave you a $20 gift and you gave me a $200 gift. Now I feel bad. It avoids awkwardness. So it helps to set a spending limit, and you have to stick to that spending limit too. You can't break the rules. Brown bag your lunch. Now I know this is not very exciting. A lot of this is not very exciting, but I do this every day, and I've been doing it every day forever. As long as I've been working. When I started working at 16, I've always brought my own lunch. I don't buy my lunch. And I've said before, I can count on one hand the number of times I have gone out for lunch in the last 2 years. And one of those times was something with my firm. Then it was kind of like a firm luncheon, and they paid for it, and it wasn't my idea. I just had to go. But other than that, I bring my lunch every day. And one thing you can do, and this is something a lot of my coworkers do, on Monday morning, they might bring in like some bread and sandwich stuff. And they'll put the refrigerated stuff. We have a refrigerator. If you have a refrigerator at work, that is a wonderful thing for bringing your own lunch. Just stick it in there. They bring enough for 5 lunches just on Monday. That way they don't have to bring it every day. And then at lunchtime, they can go in there and make a sandwich, or they bring salad stuff and they just kind of assemble it, when it's time to eat. It's a lot cheaper to do that than go out to eat. Like, I know where I work, if within walking distance, the only places to eat within walking distance of where I work are very expensive. I think they're expensive compared to going like to McDonald's. Of course, McDonald's has gotten expensive too. But I guess what I consider expensive, other people would scoff at, and I guess that's great for you if you think it's not expensive. But I'm not used to $100 lunches, and if you are, well, la-di-da, good for you. I'm not used to that. I'm just saying, add it up and see. Like the average lunch where I work would be probably $10 to $12. And I know people who go out to lunch every day. I mean, Monday through Friday, that's what they do. Lunchtime, they get up, they go wherever they want to go to get lunch and buy their lunch every day. And if you're talking about, say it's $10 a day, that's $50 a week. That's $200 a month that you're spending on lunch. But if you made it from home, if you brought something from home, even if it was just leftovers from last night's dinner, you're going to save a ton of money. I mean, that's $200 a month, $2,400 a year. That's a lot of money. That'd be a really nice emergency fund to have. Stick to water. I don't mean literally. We're not going to change your chemical makeup or anything. If you go out to eat, if you look at the prices of the beverages, especially the alcoholic beverages, they can be really expensive, and they can cause your bill to go up quite a bit. My kids and I don't eat out much. We probably go out to eat once every other month or so. And when we do, most of the time I will just get water. Every now and then I'll get something else, but usually I just get water. And it does help save money. Now this one you may scoff at too, but it's important. Don't skimp on preventative care, whether it's health care or car maintenance. And I know sometimes it's hard to pay for both of those things, but trust me, if you catch a problem up front, it is a lot cheaper and a lot easier to deal with than if you wait until it is a full-blown catastrophe, whether it's your body or your car. I hate to compare the two, but it's true. If there's a minor problem, it's a lot easier to catch it early than to wait until it is unfixable or it's going to be very expensive to fix. So do that. And dental care, same thing. Get your teeth cleaned. Take care of your teeth because it is extremely expensive when you talk about dental work. Oh dear God. If you've ever had crowns or bridge work or anything, holy crap. You don't want to play around with that. Comparison shop for homeowners and car insurance. This is something I just did recently with my car insurance. I don't sound like a commercial, but I did. I shopped around a little bit and I went with a different car insurance company and lumped together my homeowner's insurance with it. And it really did save me a lot of money just making a few phone calls and talking to some people. So if you've been with the same insurance folks for a long time, it might be worth your while to kind of look around and see what other options you have. You might be surprised how much money you can save doing that. Comparison shop for prescription drugs. Now, this is something a lot of people don't do, but especially if you don't have prescription insurance and you have to pay out of pocket, this can save you a lot of money as well. And I think there are apps for this that you can get, free apps for the cost of prescription drugs. And yes, if you don't live in the United States, I know there will be comments about the cost of healthcare in the United States. Can we just forego all that? Okay, yes, it's bad. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it is. But that's where we are right now, and this is what we have to do. We have to make the best of it. I'm just trying to help. Shop around a little bit. If you have a prescription drug that you have to take and it's expensive, you may very well find it cheaper somewhere else. I've had to do that myself because I haven't had insurance nonstop my whole life, and I know what it's like to have to pay for stuff out of your own pocket. Refinance your mortgage. Now, this one can be cumbersome, and it may or may not be a good idea depending on where you are with your mortgage, but it may be worth looking into. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying, depending on where you are, this might be something you want to look into. Can't hurt. This is something I do. And now, again, I don't want to debate generic versus name brand drugs. Let's not turn this into a thing. I'm not trying to make this a thing. I'm just trying to help. Purchase store brand OTC medications. And I do this. I very, very rarely buy the name brand. If I do, it's probably because it was my only option. I always get the generic version of it. It's always cheaper. It's the same thing. Oh, and that goes along with it. Go generic if possible. It's the same thing. It's just cheaper. I don't want to debate that. Please don't. Now, this is something I do myself. I've done it here at this house, at every place I've ever lived. Weatherproof your home. Use sun-blocking curtains and seal your windows. I have done that here at this place. Eventually, one financial goal that I do have is to get some, if not all of the windows in this house replaced. They are not the greatest windows. They let in a lot of air. It's just, I've got them sealed as well as I can, but one thing I'm trying to budget for right now is saving up money to get some windows replaced around here. So that's something that I'm trying to plan for. Oh, this is a good one. This is a great one. And see, it's all about restraint and self-discipline when it comes to purchases. And that is a learned skill. Most people are not good at it if they've never had to do it. And this might help. Use the 24-hour rule. If you're getting ready to make a purchase, don't do it right away. Give it a day. Give it 24 hours and think about it. Think long and hard. Do I really, really need this? Do I really even want it? Or am I just buying it because I have decided that I have to have it for some reason? Is that true? And I've found so many times, like I'll put some stuff in my cart on Amazon and I almost never buy it right away unless I really need it for, like, if my kids, I need this for school, can you please order this? And I'm going to need it next week. If it's something like that, I'll go ahead and get it. But if it's just something for me, I always have stuff sitting in my cart. I probably have 6 or 7 things in there right now that have been there for a while. Or they're saved for later. And so often I'll go back and look, and I had forgotten. There are items I had forgotten all about. I'll look at my cart and go, I forgot I put that in there. Maybe I don't really want it as bad as I thought. If I've already forgotten about it and I just put it in there 2 or 3 days ago, maybe it's not really something I need to buy at this point, and I'll just take it out of the cart and I don't buy it. Sometimes if you sleep on it, you may decide that you don't really need that item after all, and you can save a lot of money just by never spending it. And that's, again, make a savings plan. Look at your budget, see where you can trim some stuff away. I think pretty much everybody could trim something out of their budget. And I'm not saying cut it to the bare bone. Now, you can go too far with it. My grandfather was like that. He was a great man, but he and my grandmother went through the Depression, and it was very, very hard on them. They had a really rough time. They grew up during the Depression. They were still pretty young. I think a lot of people who had to go through the Depression, it really kind of changed them, like, for life. They never really looked at money the same way again. And he just refused to spend money on anything unless it was absolutely necessary and could not be avoided. He didn't believe in splurging on anything ever. And, I really think he took it too far. It was like an obsession with him to see how much money he could save. And I think you can take it too far. But he was doing what he thought was right. But, he was really something. So you don't want to go too far the other way. It's okay to have little things that you spend money on every now and then. That's okay. I do that. A little something I don't need, but I want. But you just have to find that balance, You don't want to go too far one way or the other. Now, this is something so many young people are not doing. And they have a lot of excuses for not doing it. And I know it's not going to be popular to say, but a lot of your excuses are just that. They are excuses. Start saving for retirement as early as possible, especially if you work in a place that matches your contributions, and a lot of people do. You're walking away from free money if you don't take that. My employer matches part of what I contribute. They don't match like a lot of places do. I wish they did, but they match sort of. Some places will match. They really will match quite a bit of your contribution. When you get a job, when I got my job 18 years ago, I was young, I was broke, and but from the day I started, I put money into my 401k. I didn't put much. I'd only put maybe $50 a month in there, but it was something. It was something. Contribute something. Don't stop. Don't drop to zero. Keep putting money in there. I promise you it will pay off. And don't look at it every day because it's going to fluctuate. Look at it like once a month or whatever. Don't look at it every day. It'll make you crazy. But I've been putting money in there nonstop for 18 years. And, I put quite a bit more in there now. I'm putting almost $500 a month in there now, and it has really, really grown. It has really, really taken off. It took a hit after my second marriage ended. I had to take a chunk of it out and give it to my ex, and that hurt. And it was right before the crash of '08, and that really hurt. But I have really come back from that. I have recovered, and I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my 401k. You will fail sometimes. I'll go ahead and tell you that. When you mess up, don't beat up on yourself too much. Just try again. You will mess up. I have messed up. I have spent money that I really shouldn't have. When you do that, if there's a way you can go back and undo it, undo it. I have done that. I've made purchases and then felt really bad and returned them. Because the guilt that I felt for buying it was worse than the joy of whatever it was. But don't beat yourself up too much. It's okay. It's okay. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is a lifestyle change. This is not something you're going to do for a week or two and then go, whew, I'm glad that's over. Yeah, now things can get back to normal. This is going to have to be your normal. If you want to get out of debt, This is going to have to be a lifestyle change. This is not something you're just going to do for a little bit and then go back to the way it was. I know I just said that, but it bears repeating. You really have to change the way you look at money and necessities and the way you live your life. You're really going to have to rethink everything. But it's worth it. Trust me. You will be very glad that you did it. I know I am. Aim for short-term savings goals. I still do this. If there's something I want, it's good to work toward little things where you can see a payoff quicker. It gives you the motivation to keep going. And it's going to give you a real confidence boost to go, hey, I set this goal and I achieved it. And now look, I have this shiny bauble that I wanted. And I saved up the money. I didn't use my credit card. I didn't dip into my savings. I just, I saved up for it separately and bought it with money that I worked to save. Isn't that cool? And you can pat yourself on the back for that. Another thing that I thought of, and I did not write this down, learn to do things for yourself. And this is something that I've done since I moved in here. Learn to fix things yourself instead of calling a plumber or whoever to do it. I have fixed 2 toilets in this house using YouTube videos to show me how to do it. And I didn't have to hire anybody to come in here and do it. I did it myself. And it gives you a real sense of accomplishment to be able to go, hey, I did that. Look at that. Look what I did. There are things that I can do. I can change oil. I can change the oil in my car, the oil and filter. I know how to do that. I don't, though, because I hate doing it. So I pay someone to do it. It's worth it to me to pay someone to do that. But if I had to do it myself, and I have had to do it myself, I can do it myself because my dad taught me how. He wanted his daughter to know how to do things like that. I can change a tire. I can change oil and filter. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can check my fluids, this, that, and the other. I can do all kinds of stuff. I can jump start a car. I can do all that. Learn how to do things on your own instead of paying somebody to do them. I mow my own yard. I was out doing that earlier because I thought it was going to rain and I had to hurry up and get out there and get it done. My kids also help with yard work. We do all the housework, yard work. I don't pay anybody to do that stuff. I could very easily say, well, I'm busy, I'm tired, I deserve to have someone come clean my house and mow my yard. Why spend money on something that my kids and I can do? I save a ton of money on just that. This card is way out of order. Establish a budget. I'm glad it came up again because I think it's a very important thing that everybody needs to do. Set up a budget and stick to it. You're going to be accountable to yourself. If you set up a budget and you don't follow it, you are the one who's going to suffer. It's not going to affect the people passing you on the street. It's not going to affect me. It will affect you if you don't do it. So you stand to gain a lot by setting up a budget and following it. Now here's a technique I have never used, but I know people who have and it worked for them, so I thought I would mention it. Budget with cash and envelopes. So once a month, like you could take part of your check or whatever, put it in envelopes, and once it's gone, it's gone. You're not going to spend any more on that particular thing. Like you could write on the envelope groceries or whatever. And once the money in that envelope is gone, you don't spend any more on that. You're done. You're just going to have to find a way to do without until the end of the month. Yeah, it hurts, but you know what? You learn something from it. You need to feel a little pain. You need to feel the squeeze a little bit. You really do. Trust me, it's not going to kill you. If you feel bad, if you start feeling like you're really struggling, I highly recommend reading The Grapes of Wrath. If you really need something to give you some perspective as to what struggling is, read The Grapes of Wrath and you may feel a lot more grateful for what you have. You really will. Set up automatic savings with your bank or employer. If you have a way to automatically, like at the first of the month, it automatically puts $50 in your savings account or whatever. Sometimes your employer might have a savings plan that you can be part of. Mine doesn't, but some employers will do that for you. That's a nice pain-free way to save money if you just set it up right off the bat. You get used to that, you incorporate it into your budget. You don't even notice the money's gone. You don't even notice, it just comes out and you don't even notice it. That's why with the 401k, I've always contributed, and I don't miss the money because I don't ever have it. I'm used to that. It's part of my budget. It's all in there. I don't miss that money, and it just goes in there and builds up in my retirement account, because one day I would like to retire. I don't want to work until I die. Build an emergency fund. I would recommend at least $500 money, $500 cash, or in a savings account or something that you can get to if you need it. And a really ambitious but a good goal would be 3 months salary. And I know that's hard, but I think a lot of people spend obscene amounts of money on things. That's just my opinion. Like, I know that, of course, the people that want to sell you diamonds will tell you 3 months salary for a ring. Well, that's ridiculous. But there are people who do it because they feel that pressure. Or what's the average cost of a wedding now in the United States? It's like $24,000. That's ridiculous. If you have $24,000, use it as a down payment on a house. If you have 3 months salary sitting around, put it in a CD or something, or I don't know, something. Use it to pay down your debt. Don't use it for a ring and an event, a one-day event like a wedding. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but at least half the weddings are going to end in divorce. You could be getting divorced before you finish paying off your wedding. I know people who have done that. Yeah, I'm sure it's very important to some people, but I guess I'm just a lot more practical than I am, a hopeless romantic or whatever. I would never spend that kind of money. I think the most expensive wedding I had was my first one, and I think we spent $4,000 on it, and I thought that was crazy expensive. All the other ones were way cheaper than that. This is a hard one, but it's a lesson. It's practicing self-restraint. Save your windfalls and tax returns. If you come into some money, save it, or use it to pay down your debt. If you have debt, use that money to pay your debt down. That's what I do. In the years when I did get an income tax return, I used it to pay on my debt. I never saw a penny of that money. I didn't blow a penny of it. Every cent of it went to pay on my debt. Every year. Save your loose change. If you have loose change, put it in a jar and watch how fast it adds up. You would be shocked at how fast you can save up money just by saving your change. Treat yourself, but use it as an opportunity to save. I know this sounds boring and lame, but hear me out. Like, say you feel you deserve a treat. You deserve a manicure, which I will tell you, I've had 2 manicures in my whole life, and one was before my senior prom, and the other one was a birthday present from a friend of mine when I turned 38, I think. I'm not big on manicures, but if that's your thing, you feel you deserve a manicure, go get a manicure, sure, but you should also take whatever you spend on that manicure. I don't even know what they cost. Say it's, I don't even know. I'll give some figure and somebody will laugh at me, so screw it. Take the money that you would have spent on that manicure, whatever it was, X amount of dollars. Go ahead and get your manicure. But you should also take that same amount of money and put it in savings, whatever it is. And if you say, well, that's too much to put in savings, I don't want to put that much in savings, then do you really need to spend it on a manicure? You have to decide these kind of things. If it's not worth it to you to save that amount of money, then maybe it shouldn't be something you're spending. I mean, it might be another way of looking at the money you want to spend. Maybe if you want to treat yourself, you can just go get a snow cone or something. I don't know. It just might be another way to look at the money that you spend in a new light. This video is getting really long. Place a savings reminder on your card. Now, this is one you might not have thought about, and I'll explain this one. This is something I have done. And what I mean by that is you are literally placing a reminder on your card. Like you take a piece of masking tape, Put it on your card, obviously not on the strip, although that'd be a good way to save money if the card won't work. Put a piece of masking tape on there and put a note on it, like right on there with a Sharpie marker. Are you sure you need this? Question mark. I had I had one on my debit card for a while. It peeled off though. It came off. And I just put a piece of masking tape on there and I just wrote on there, seriously? And every time I had to take my card out to pay for something, I would see that and go, yeah, I know. Okay, maybe I won't get it then. Might be a way to remind yourself that, do you really need to be buying this right now? Now, this one is hard, I know, but think about it. Pay off your credit cards in full every month. This way you don't rack up any interest on your cards. And if you look at your statement, if you have a lot of credit card debt, and I've been there, I know. I have had tons of credit card debt, but not from fun purchases. It was like stuff like hospital bills, medical bills, school expenses, stuff like that. Not really fun. It's not like I was out shopping at Neiman Marcus or something. If you look at the amount of money that you are losing every month to interest, it would make you sick to look over the course of a year how much interest you're having to pay on that debt. It is sickening. But if you pay it off in full every month, you're not going to have to do that. And that is why your goal should be to pay that credit card debt off. Get rid of it. Get that monkey off your back, and then you won't have to keep paying that interest. That's why you need to work on paying it down, and that's what I've been doing. So I'm right there with you. Pay your bills on auto pay. I have all my bills set up for auto pay. That way I don't have to worry about it getting lost in the mail. I don't have to worry about remembering to send them a payment every month. It just automatically comes out a certain day. I have it now. I even have it in my budget. This comes out on the 1st. This comes out on the 3rd. This comes out on the 15th, the 20th, whatever. So I know what's coming out, how much it's going to be, and what day it's going to come out of my account, so I can always make sure I have enough money in there to cover it. So do that. Unsubscribe, but not for me, because I don't charge. Now, what I mean by that is, I think, when you go in a store, like say Bath and Body Works or Ulta Beauty or whatever, they want your email address. And we'll give you 10% off your next purchase if you give us your email address. Oh, great, sure. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, I know they're going to flood my inbox with emails, but I'll just unsubscribe later. And a lot of times we don't. And then we end up buying things that normally we wouldn't have because we see these cool deals in their emails. And that's the whole point. That's why they do it. I've unsubscribed from basically everything like that. When you get them, they're required by law to have an unsubscribe option in the email. It's usually down at the bottom, and it'll be in print about that big. It'll be like 1.5 point font, and it's like, but it's there. Unsubscribe from it so you don't keep getting those emails, and you won't be tempted with whatever sale they're having this week. And your inbox won't fill up as fast, which is also nice. And this is one I wrote earlier. A want is not the same as a need. Now, I know this sounds basic, and a lot of people have a pretty good grasp of it, but you'd be surprised how many adults don't understand this concept because they've never had to. If there's somebody who was given everything they wanted as a child and they were indulged at every turn, they never really developed the sense of the difference between a want and a need. To them, it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. You don't need a Starbucks every morning. You don't need a brand new expensive purse. You don't need that stuff. You may want it, but you don't need it. If you're already in debt, you really don't need it. So spend more time being honest with yourself about what you need and what you just want. Get the kids involved. Now, I do this. I try so hard to teach my kids the things that I learned as a child. I want them to understand Money doesn't grow on trees. If you want something, you're going to work for it. I'm not just going to give it to you. I'm not just going to buy it and hand it to you. You're going to work for it. Because I really think if they can learn how to save money, delay gratification, like when they get their birthday money or somebody gives them money at Christmas or whatever, I make them put at least half of it in their piggy banks. And I will not let them touch their piggy banks. And there have been times over the years that they mumbled and grumbled about, oh, I want to buy this thing. I saw this cool Nerf gun. I want to get it. No, you already have 50,000 Nerf guns. You're not getting that one. But I really want to get it. Can you afford it? Well, no. Okay, well, you can do extra chores around the house and you can do the work I give you if you want to earn the money for it. Do you want to do that? And then they stop and think about it. Do I really want it bad enough to do a bunch of chores? And it forces them to stop and think about it. If they have to do the work to get it, they have to rethink the whole thing. And that is a very important lesson for them to learn now while they're still young. And they won't have to learn it when they're out there in the real world struggling because nobody ever bothered to teach them that. So many parents don't do that anymore. Oh my God. Teach your kids to manage money. Teach them to manage money. I've had a checking account since I was 14 years old. And I learned how to balance my checkbook. I learned how to keep track of my account, how much money I had in there, what was going out, what was coming in. And I was required to put a certain percentage of my allowance in the bank every week. And my mom would take me to the bank and I would make a deposit just like a grown-up. And it was a very valuable lesson for me. I learned about how all that works. And I didn't know any other kid that learned that at that young of an age. I didn't know anybody who did that. But I'm really grateful. I bounced one check in my whole life. And that was when I was 19 and I screwed up I thought I had a little bit more in there than I did, and I screwed up. Only check I've ever bounced. Only use your bank's ATMs. And that's, to avoid the fees, because you'd be surprised how much some ATMs will charge you in convenience fees, and your bank may charge you as well. I bank with a credit union. I would also recommend that. If a credit union is an option for you, usually their fees are lower. I find that they're easier to deal with. They're a lot more, you're not as likely to call and just get a robot on the phone or get caught in a phone tree and never speak to a human. They're a lot more personable. And I've been with a credit union since I was 14. I'm still with the same credit union today. Literally freeze your credit. Now, I've never done this, but I've heard of people who will take their credit cards and put them in a cup of water and put it in the freezer and just freeze it. So their credit card is just this block of ice. And that may work for you. Like if you're bad to make impulse purchases with your credit card, when it's in a block of ice and you can't get to it and you're going to have to wait for it to thaw or you chip away at it, it's going to give you a little time to think about that purchase. Do I really need it bad enough to try to get this credit card out of this chunk of ice? I have heard of people say that it really keeps them from spending money. So if impulse purchases are a weakness of yours, that might be something to do. If nothing else, leave it at home when you go shopping. I've done that. Don't even take it with you. Or if you're shopping online, don't have your credit card nearby. Just if it takes a little effort to go get it, you might be likely to rethink that purchase and not get it. Use the library. If there's a book you want to read, a lot of libraries, you don't even have to go there anymore and deal with a possibly grumpy librarian. God, we know how bad those are. You may be able to get the book online, like for your Kindle or whatever, and you can read it. You just check it out for a certain number of days, and you have access to it, and you can read it for free. You don't have to go buy the book. And that's just one example. They have movies and stuff too. Shop in thrift stores and look for quality items. I cannot tell you how much money I have saved over the course of my life. Thousands and thousands of dollars shopping in thrift stores. Um, I don't know if you know this about me, but probably 95% of my clothes come from thrift stores. Same for my kids. And we look for good quality items. Now, I am lucky. We do live in an area that has spectacular thrift stores. So there's a lot of good stuff to choose from. And, being a single mom, I've gotten a lot of flack for it. I've had people say, well, what are you doing shopping in there? That's for people who don't have much money and can't afford much. And I'm thinking, how much money do you think I have? I'm a single mom raising two kids on my own. Trust me, I don't have a lot of money either. Okay. Yeah, you may think I have tons of cash. I do not. It has saved me so much money, and for the majority of my life, that has been a lifesaver to be able to buy clothes and other stuff much cheaper there than I would have to pay in a retail, like buying them new. So if you've never tried it, give it a try. Or consignment shops might be an option for you, where instead of going and buying all your clothes new, just go check out some of the consignment shops in your area. You might be surprised at the really nice stuff in there. But one of the things I have to watch out for is you go in there and you think, wow, this stuff is a lot cheaper. That means I can buy more. Don't fall into that trap. Because you can still end up spending a lot of money. You'll end up with a lot of stuff, but you're still spending a lot of money, and that kind of defeats the purpose. So I have to be careful not to buy too much stuff, although I do still do that sometimes. Designate one day as a no-spend day. Like for you and your family, like you could pick one weekend day or something where no one is going to spend any money. Whatever you do, it has to be free, whether it's going to the park or playing a board game or staying home and watching a movie that you have at home or whatever it is. You spend the day doing things that don't cost money, and that can save you money, and you might actually have a face-to-face conversation, which most people don't do very often anymore. Don't buy cheap clothes just because they're cheap. Now, by cheap, I mean a lot of times if you go into stores, even stores where you wouldn't really think about it, like Kohl's, I have, I have an eye, I guess, for quality when it comes to clothing and shoes and stuff. A lot of their clothing is not good quality. And a lot of it is shockingly expensive, mainly because I shop at Goodwill and I go into Kohl's and it just freaks me out what they want me to pay for stuff in there. Like $50 for a pair of jeans. Are you kidding me? I could get 10 pairs of jeans at Goodwill for that. But you look at the stuff and it may be cheap, it may be inexpensive, but if it's inexpensively made, it's not going to last. You might be able to wear it a couple of times and it's going to start coming apart. That's not really a good deal. That's not a good value for your money. So just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's something that you necessarily should buy. Try to look for good quality stuff. That's why I say go to Goodwill, because I find good quality stuff in there every time I go. Now here's one you might not have thought of. Only one more and then we'll be done. Cut your laundry detergent and dryer sheets in half. Only use half as much, and it will still get them just as clean. Especially with the laundry detergent these days, in the United States anyway, it's so concentrated, you probably don't have to use as much as the bottle says. You could use half as much, and your clothes will get just as clean. If anything, you may be better off because you don't end up with as much soap residue on your clothes. I do that. I use about half of what they recommend. And dryer sheets, when I don't use dryer sheets very often, but when I do, I cut them in half. I don't use the whole thing. I use a half a sheet, and it just does just as well. And they're going to last twice as long that way. And I buy all my laundry detergent and dryer sheets at Aldi because they're cheaper and they work great. Use less water. There are lots of ways to conserve water. You can get water-saving shower heads, faucet aerators. You can make sure that you and your kids or your partner or whoever is in your house turns off the water while they brush their teeth. You can save energy by turning down the temperature on your water heater. There are so many. I mean, these are just some ideas that I came up with today, just off the top of my head. Um, there are so many ways that you can save money. You can kind of even make it a game, like what are some new ideas for saving money, and how much can we save doing this or that. Like if you have the space, you could plant a garden. I don't do gardens. We had a big garden growing up. Every year we had a huge vegetable garden, and my brother and I, that was one of our chores, was to tend the garden. We had to chop wood. We had a wood burning heater for many years. We didn't have any other source of heat in the winter. um, I had to do a lot of physical labor as a child. And I don't do gardens anymore. I hated it. But you could grow some stuff. You could, if you live in the right climate and you had the space, you could plant a peach tree or an apple tree on your property. We had a whole orchard of apple trees. We had 5 or 6 different types of apples. We had pear trees. We had a pecan tree, peach trees. We had peach trees in a separate part. We lived on land that my grandfather owned. And we had grapes, peaches. We had blueberries out in the woods behind us everywhere. So there was no shortage of really good fruit and vegetables growing up. So, but it was all free except for the labor to grow them and harvest them. We didn't buy them in the grocery store. I think having to grow up that way taught me a lot that a lot of people don't ever really learn. They don't get it. So when times get lean, I can tighten up and survive it without incurring any more debt than I absolutely have to. And you can. These are skills that you have to learn. They're not just going to come to you by instinct. These are things I think you really have to learn these things. And if you have someone to teach you these things when you're a child, you're very fortunate. And I know that I am very fortunate to have grown up in a home where I learned these things. I hated it at the time, especially when I started school and got picked on a lot because my mom made my clothes and we didn't have anything nice. And, kids can be very cruel. I didn't like it then, but I appreciate it now. I really do. So I hope you learned a few things. If nothing else, I want you, if you're interested in saving money and helping yourself out financially, take the next month, like say the month of June, that's coming up. Take the whole month and write down all your expenses and look at where you are and where your money's going. And really think long and hard about it. Just be honest with yourself about where your money's going and where you can save some. And then you can start on your budget, and then I bet you would start to see some real progress towards your financial goals, whatever they may be. So, thank you for listening to this very long-winded bunch of stuff. I hope it helped. And I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I wish you all the best. We're all on a journey when it comes to money. We all are, and it never stops, unfortunately. But we're all in it together, and I know how it is. So you are not alone, just so you know, and I'm rooting for you. So I wish you the best, and I will see you again soon.